Wait, there's something very weak coming through.
There was one woman who came on in A New Hope, and she was, in kind of a secretarial role, and by Return of the Jedi, she was running ILM stuff.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, fellow Galactic listeners. I'm Aaron Julian, and this is WSTR Galactic Public Access, a Star Wars podcast. Welcome to episode 107. Today, we have a very special guest, Amy Richau, who is behind the hashtag 365 Star Wars Women. Welcome to the show, Amy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And as always, we have joining us today, Heather Allred.
Hey, everybody.
And Todd Hoffman.
Hello.
You can check us out on social media, WSTR Media, all one word, all lowercase. You can email us at mailbox@wstrmedia.com. Leave us a voicemail at 630-557-WSTR. That's 630-557-9787. You can catch our entire back catalog of episodes over at podcast.wstrmedia.com. And you can find us on YouTube and catch our live streams every week, Saturday night, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Search for WSTR Media. You will find us. Today's podcast, as always, is brought to you by Audible. That's right, Amazon's audiobook service. You can choose from over 425,000 titles. And if you head on over to audibletrial.com/WSTR, you get a 1-month free trial.
What?
You can pick your audiobook of choice. I know, it's too good to be true,
It's too
Todd,
good.
but it is. You pick
Tell me
one
more,
book of
Aaron.
your choice.
Tell me more.
All right, I will. You get one book of your choice. You can, hunker down, shelter throughout the winter cold that's just blasting the States right now. Get you a good book, listen through it. Your choice, one of over 425,000 titles, and you get to keep it forever. Even if you cancel the service, no questions asked. They let you keep it, and we get a payout. Everybody wins. So if you want to support your local, organic, free-range, homegrown podcast, head on over to audibletrial.com/WSTR and sign up for your free audiobook trial today. And we are also brought to you by our merch store over at the good folks at Teespring. You could find that by going to store.wstrmedia.com. We've got mugs, stickers, tank tops, t-shirts, hoodies, socks, leggings. What else? I think that's it.
Yeah, we need a hat for winter now.
Ooh, smart.
Yeah. Well, more merch is on the way, but in the meantime, you can support your local podcast and look good doing it over at store.wstrmedia.com. All right, we've paid the bills. Heather,
Yes.
what can we expect on our news hour?
Yes. So your upcoming News of the Week teaser include, hey, that's the same jacket as...
Oh,
I don't know.
all right.
Then we have no wrinkles.
Okay.
Ooh,
Okay, that's it. That's all I got
Got a
for
nice-
you. And then...
got a nice steam iron going there. Okay.
And then everyone's favorite time, couch time,
Yes. Yes, indeed. And then
And then-
finally,
Oscar.
Okay. Oscar the Grouch. I got it.
Yes, Oscar the
I got
Grouch.
okay.
I
Todd
got it.
wins the prize.
I got it.
Speaking of Todd,
all right.
Yes.
what happened on Twitter?
Oh, everything happens on Twitter. So
Okay.
we are going to do Twitter Trash Compactor.
Get in there, you big polio! I don't care what you smell! Get in there and don't worry about it!
All right. So every week we run a poll. And last week we were talking about, we did our Imperial inspection on Princess Leia. And the question was, what movie was your favorite version of Princess Leia? This is one of the items we discussed last week. So unfortunately, you only have 4 choices on Twitter. So the first one's A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and then you have the combo deal of Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. So Amy, let's start with you. What's your favorite movie version of Princess Leia?
I think probably Return of the Jedi.
Really?
Yeah, no, I love Leia and Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi was one of the first movies, like that's the first Star Wars movie that really like got me. But like, I love seeing her fight back against Jabba. Like, I loved her with the Ewoks, just in general.
Got it.
Leia.
All right, Return of the Jedi. Very good.
Nice.
Heather, which one did you pick?
So I voted on the Twitter feed, and I voted for The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi.
What? Okay.
No, I did it on purpose, guys.
I know you did.
I did. So I love General Leia. I love what this really mature demeanor she brings, with still that little bit of sass when she's like talking to Han in The Force Awakens, and then as we talked about in last week's episode, so check it out. Just her like quick ad-lib, line to Luke with the whole, I know I changed my hair. I mean, that, if that doesn't tell you who she is with the people within the universe, I don't know. I just love it.
Okay. Very good. Aaron?
Well, I'm not on Twitter, so I did not cast a vote.
That's not true. You are on Twitter.
I am on Twitter.
Yeah.
I passed through it like a bad truck stop. So if I were to vote,
yes,
I'd probably say Empire Strikes Back.
All right.
I think that's Leia in her prime.
In her prime.
Which is not to say the other ones are bad,
right?
But I'm like Princess Leia, like the most penultimate example of who she is.
Yes.
Empire Strikes Back.
There you go. I would have picked A New Hope because I feel like she just commands the screen when she's there, and she puts those two boys in her place. So I like A New Hope the best. Aaron, Twitter agreed with you. Empire Strikes Back won with 39%.
I don't know how I feel about that. Twitter agreeing with me.
Well, if you're looking for validation, that's what social media is for, man. So
I don't need validation from Twitter, Todd.
Well, you're better off. You're better off, my friend. So so every week we run a poll. So stay tuned, and we might run several polls. You never know. So, but yes, Empire Strikes Back won as the favorite movie version of Princess Leia. All right, shall we move on to our main topic?
Let's do it.
And now for our feature presentation.
All right, Amy. Yeah, Amy, it's all about you, Amy. So no pressure. You're in the hot seat, and we were talking a little bit before the show. I mean, basically, we're here to see if you're really truly a Star Wars fan.
I know. So. Yeah, I brought my papers, all of my proof and documents.
We're going to carefully go through all the documents to make sure everything lines up.
This whole last year was a lie.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the reveal.
So why don't you do a little for our listeners? Why don't you kind of give us a little background about who Amy is? What makes you up?
Well, so I will mostly, I'll start, I assume you mean kind of like how I relate to Star Wars.
Or in general.
In general, yeah. Like,
Star Wars.
So I grew up in Montana, and to me, growing up in Montana, I was like, someone who was like obsessed with movies and obsessed with TV shows. Like, I felt so far away from everything that I always kind of think that one of the reasons why Star Wars really attracted me when I was younger is because, I felt like I was like Luke on Tatooine, kind of like looking out there being like, I am so far away from everything.
I am the farthest from the sun.
I know.
Hey, at least it's not Wyoming.
City of Montana.
Yeah.
But still, it was small. So I saw A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back in the theaters, and I have kind of vague memories of them. But when I was 10 and saw Return of the Jedi, that is when my Star Wars fandom really just kind of escalated into into a problem. And it was I had a very kind of typical relationship with Star Wars with a lot of people, a lot of the women that I interviewed, where I really didn't know anyone else who was a Star Wars fan. Like, people like Star Wars, like everyone in my family liked Star Wars, but they didn't like love it anywhere near the same way that I did. And I feel like I kind of had, a somewhat solitary fandom for decades, really.
Okay.
Like I would kind of know one or two people who I'd kind of, you would kind of come up, but it was just kind of something that was, my own kind of little, I don't think would call it a secret, but it wasn't something that I kind of, talked about with other people for a long time. But Star Wars was always kind of there, kind of inspiring me. And I grew up in a household that, my parents loved movies. They took me to movies all the time. And I ended up being a film studies major. And I think that a lot of it was Star Wars is a great jumping off point because George Lucas and other people who have made Star Wars films and other people who've made Star Wars TV shows have been so inspired by other things that I really kind of I watched all the movies that, George Lucas said he was influenced by and that other people said that they were influenced by. And that really, helped create and, sustain my love of cinema.
Cool.
Was it unusual for you at the time to be a fan of Star Wars?
Well,
as compared to say today?
Know, I feel like I just didn't know that many people who were Star Wars fans. It's really interesting now where I feel like, now it's weird if you're not a Star Wars fan somehow, but also I think it's just because of the people who, you were kind of drawn to later in life. And I feel like, I'm in my 40s and I think I've gone through the whole, I've trying to figure out who I was. I mean, you're always trying to figure out who you are, I think, but trying to figure out who you are and fit in and oh, should I tell this person? Should I reveal my geekiness to them? And now I just don't care, and so, I mean, I'll wear my Star Wars shirt to the bus stop and be if you think it's silly, who cares? Not me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, I haven't been very active in social media, even though, I was, I remember looking a little bit in Star Wars message boards and stuff back in the 90s and everything like that. I never really got very into it. I wasn't a huge fan fiction reader and I wasn't a huge message board. I wasn't really drawn to that kind of world. So it's just been the last couple of years that I've really kind of dove into Star Wars Twitter, which, is, there's good and there's bad.
It's good and bad. Especially in 2018.
Yeah, but I have really, really had by far, I've had a very good experience. I mute people and block people like any sane person. But for the most part, I have just been it's been really, really delightful to connect with people. I think it's really important in life to connect with people who are not your age, don't look like you, don't live where you live, don't have similar political views. That's that's even more complicated now. But I think that, Star Wars Twitter has kind of given me it always makes me feel younger when I can talk with people who are, talk with people who are younger and being able to connect with people who grew up with the prequels. I think that has invigorated my Star Wars fandom almost more than anything else. Almost even more than the sequel trilogy, which I really, really love, The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. And I'm a Star Wars sucker. And so the idea that I wasn't going to like it would really have had to have been quite bad. I think. Mm-hmm. But I really I think that it's really great that, I care just as much about Rey and Poe and Kylo and all of those people as I do about how the original trilogy characters were handled. So I've been quite impressed by how much that has sucked me back in.
And then, Amy, where do you see other non-film Star Wars play into your life? Are you reading books? Are you doing comics? Are you playing the video games? Or is it just movie-based at this point?
Well, I with the TV shows, I feel like I've always been a little bit slow with it. When the Clone Wars movie came out, I can't remember exactly how old I think I only had one child at the time, but with the Clone Wars and the TV show, I was I'm going to kind of wait, and I wasn't immediately drawn to it. And I was I'm going to wait and watch it with my kids. But then you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting. And then my kids weren't super interested in it. And I was you know what? I want to watch it. I don't need to watch it with a kid. I can just watch it. And so I really, really enjoyed that. And, I've tried to get my kids into Star Wars. It hasn't worked out super well. And, but I, watch Star Wars Rebels and I'm watching Star Wars Resistance. And, I find all of them quite entertaining. Books, since the new canon has come out, I had read some of the Legends, but it'd been a long time since I'd done that. But I keep up with most of the books, and I really had not done any kind of comics like for some reason that had always, even though I'm a visual person and I really like the artwork, like reading comics had never been a thing. But when I did the 365 Star Wars Women project, I had to look at a lot of comics, and I've completely fallen in love with them. So I'm like, you know, like it is hilarious to me that like, you know, it took me 45 years, but there I am at my comic book shop being like, yeah.
Awesome.
Comics.
Well then, so you mentioned it. Talk to us about this 365 Star Wars Women. What made you decide to hit up Twitter and share with the world, supposedly?
I was really, part of it was I was really trying to come up with an excuse to write consistently. I am mostly a stay-at-home mom by choice and happy with that. But like, I always like having kind of side projects and being able to, I always do a little bit of freelancing, but like I really try to always have something kind of creative going on. And I always push that to the back burner. So I really wanted to force myself to write, and I really need a deadline. And so like every day is too much of a deadline. Like you shouldn't do that. Like, like that's too much. But
it's right in the title. You can't miss it.
I know. Yeah. At first it was going to be a Twitter shout out. It wasn't going to be a website. There weren't going to be any interviews. I was going to just like do a little Twitter shout out every day. And it was going to be kind of an excuse to be active in social media and do a little bit of writing. And you know, I love any excuse to devour Star Wars content that I haven't looked at for a long time or that I never have. So that's kind of where, you know, it started. But then like, it was like 2 days before the beginning of the year, my husband was like, you really should just have a website. Like, I'm like, yeah, I should have a website. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, what have I done? And then it just spiraled out of control from there. And then when I like, you know, I was like, oh, I wonder if someone would want to do an interview. And then they did, you know, and then like the whole interview process was amazing, but like, it definitely, it extended the amount of work that I did by quite a lot.
So, yeah, kind of walk us through that whole process. So, was this all of 2018 that you did 365?
It was. So, yeah, it started on, I announced it on the 31st, and then basically started from January 1st, and I rotated from, I did canon and legends, which I felt very strongly about.
Yeah.
And I think that I cannot stand the whole, like, thing about like, you know, oh my God, like, you know, you have to love canon or you have to love legends. You can't love both of them, because I think most Star Wars fans do love both of them still. Yeah. I just like, they're two timelines. I don't think it's a big deal. If you think it's a big deal, anyone, that's fine. Like, like I totally appreciate it. I don't really want to hear about it if you disagree with me, you know, but I like basically, you know, people who were in the films, in the TV shows, comics, video games. I really just tried to encompass everything. And then I also included women who were, you know, actors. So, you know, I was going to say cinematographers. I don't think there have been any female cinematographers. Yeah. I don't think I actually had one. But
they're few and far between.
But writers and artists and really anyone who, you know, like I interviewed someone who works at Fantasy Flight Games. Like I interviewed a woman who worked at Lucasfilm Games. I really tried to kind of extend it to like, have you been a part of the greater Star Wars universe? Like, I want to talk to you and include you.
So you said you know, kind of went into this like 31st, I'm launching a website and kind of giving a shout out to everybody. Did you have an outline, or did things just kind of doorways started opening up to kind of, you know, start filling this whole 365 days of Star Wars Women? Did that kind of fill out as you started progressing through it?
I basically like brainstormed about the first 20. And it was like 20, it was like 20 characters or actresses that I was already pretty familiar with.
Sure.
Kind of knock out like pretty easily. And then I kind of went through this process where I was like, well, you know, all of the characters in the Clone Wars that were female, or I think might be female from their names, you know, like who are all of them? Then you just going through different comics and just kind of doing like the whole research process. Sometimes I would just, you know, like I scheduled out posts a lot, which was great because then I would, you know, really just dig into the research. But my spreadsheet is hilarious. Like, I mean, it is just like utter chaos to this day. It's like color coded and it's got all these like different things. But, you know, I would have, you know, like, and I would do some like Twitter shout outs where I would be like, people were very, very helpful with video games because I have played a lot of Star Wars video games, but there's plenty that I haven't played. And I'm like, who are they? Like, give me your female video game characters. And I got all kinds of stuff that not only like gave me specific characters, but also said, look at this game. Or people would say, look at this comic series. Like I've noticed that you haven't had anyone from this, like, and people were very, very like, it was funny because I would get a couple near the beginning. I would be like, if Darth Traya isn't on this list sucks. And I would be like, oh, she's on, she's April, 4th. And they would be like, oh, I guess it doesn't suck. I'm like, yeah, you should chill out.
Right. Yeah.
But like that was really kind of like the only aggression I got was from a couple people, and they were all people who were asking about legend characters. But like it was interesting because it was kind of like, is this a list that's that I'm going to hate because it's ignoring this certain person?
Right.
And so like, it was very funny because I tried to be polite to them just out of my own amusement and just be like, no, they're actually right there. Look at them right there, just for you.
It's on my spreadsheet.
But people were great about helping me throughout the way. And people were very supportive from very early on. And I really don't know if I would like to think that I would have finished it without all of that support, but it was really, really helpful. And almost all the traffic to my website initially came from Twitter. Now almost all of it comes from Google, which is great.
Okay.
And it's really interesting to see, who, like it's not, Leia, it's Ula. People are looking for Ula, and people are looking for like now Aaron Kellyman, and Princess, and people, and like the handmaidens, like everyone's looking for the handmaidens, like even more and more. And I think they already were last year, but I think especially because Queen's Shadow is going to come out.
Coming out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, why do you think it is important to highlight women in Star Wars? I mean, obviously you think it is because you spent a year doing it, but for someone who someone who just might not get it, why do you think it is important to do so?
Well, for me, it was important because when I kind of, we're starting to write about Star Wars, like it was kind of right from what I'm like, okay, I know Star Wars and I know women and I know what female characters, inspired me. But part of it was like, well, what characters, who am I forgetting? Like what characters in the Star Wars history am I forgetting? Which ones have I overlooked? And I think that it's interesting, especially when you look at like the people, like one of my favorite weeks was every now and then I had a theme week, and I had a week of women who in 1980s worked at Industrial Light and Magic on Star Wars projects. You look back and you see all of these women, like women were always there. They were always, like there was one woman who like came on in A New Hope, and she was, in kind of a secretarial role, and by Return of the Jedi she was like running ILM stuff, like basically. I mean, she there's always been women kind of in the background, but they're not women that you always hear about. And I think that I love making of stuff. I love kind of hidden history, like hearing different stories from people that you always hear the same stories over and over and over again with any film for history, really.
Right. Yes.
But I kind of wanted to it's so corny, but like, you want to shine a light on the people that, aren't the people that normally get looked at. And in the case of Star Wars, I think a lot of those people, are women. Like one of my favorite posts of the entire time was one of the last ones. It was a woman named Liz Moore, who was a sculptor, and she helped sculpt C-3PO in the original Stormtrooper helmet. I had never heard her name. And it's very sad because she died in a car accident before A New Hope even started filming. So not only did she not see what happened with Star Wars, but she didn't even get to see, Anthony Danielson in an article, like she never got to see her C-3PO. Like obviously like she had a big deal to do with it if, Anthony Daniels is like referring, to C-3PO as her C-3PO. Like, and, I think it's interesting to hear her story. And it's one that I think I know that a lot of people were very happy I profiled her because a lot of people were aware of her, but I think even more people were not.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, that's like an unsung hero, It's unfortunate that you didn't get to see all that. Yeah, no,
I mean, it's very sad. Like there were a couple of people that I profiled who died last year too, which was also sad. Like one of the producers for Rogue One and Solo: A Star Wars Story died of lung cancer. Like, right at the height of her career. And, these stories, it's, it's sad, but it was also kind of nice to kind of honor her, have a chance to kind of like, look back at her career.
Awesome. So what's been your favorite part of doing this 365 Star Wars Women?
It ended up being the interviews. Like I was really inspired by the interviews, like, and every now and then, like I got the interviews from so many like funny ways. Like sometimes I literally would just be like, who has a great, filmography? Like, and I would, at their Twitter, I'd be like, this person, like, like, I wish I could interview you, like hint, hint. And more often than not, they would be like, send me some questions, but like, it was really interesting to hear from so many women. Some of them were not huge Star Wars fans before, they came on. Most of them became fans, later on, but it was really, I interviewed very young women. I interviewed women who had been in it for like, decades. And I found their stories really, really inspiring. And I also interviewed several women who were very similar to me age-wise, and their experience was so interesting. And, I just always would be like, gosh, like, I mean, why couldn't you have like lived, in my town growing up? Like we could have, like, it would have been so fun.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like finding your long lost Star Wars sisters.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So what are you looking forward to in Star Wars coming up in 2019?
Oh my God, there's so much. It's like, I'm going to forget something like major. Episode 9, obviously, like we've been really, really pleased with The Force Awakens and Last Jedi. And so I'm very excited to see how that ends. But like The Mandalorian, like I could not be more excited about that. Like I remember when there was going to be a live action Star Wars series, and then it never occurred. And so I think that that's great. I think that all the stuff with Mandalore, like in the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, has been handled really well. And I really hope that they, add on to all of that stuff. And I like when Star Wars stories connect, but I also think it's really, it's great. And it's good timing to kind of have something that's like very different and not just have it be kind of like a one-shot comic or like one novel that's like other characters, but have like a continuing story that could go on for, hopefully, years, and follow these other characters and get really attached to another group of characters. Although, like, as much as I'm excited about The Mandalorian, like, I literally, like, felt like I was going to pass out when they said about the Cassian Andor TV show. I was just like, because, I love that character. Rogue One was, as much as I love, like, The Force Awakens and Last Jedi, like, Rogue One was such, like, this completely bizarre, perfect movie of, like, what exactly, like, all I wanted, in between Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back and after Return of the Jedi, all I wanted were these additional stories that kind of added to this classic thing. And Rogue One just totally knocked it out of the park. It was such a, I don't know. It was just like, that movie really means quite a bit to me.
Very good. Very good.
Awesome.
It's a good, that was a good answer.
With you.
I know. I was like, I'm speechless. No, but like, but I think that the Cassian Andor show has such a great opportunity to bring in so many other characters in that timeline. I'm really pleased about how like they've taken the continuity so seriously, and they have like the little interweavings of everything. I think that's just fun, and I know that some people not everyone agrees with this, but I think they've done a really good job of making everything pretty much be great standalone. So like you can enjoy this, but you haven't seen this, like, like you don't have to see everything, but if you do see everything, like that brings in kind of like an extra kind of added layer.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Amy, staying on that excitement for episode 9, everyone's favorite power couple, what do you see for our beloved Reylo in the future?
Oh yes, I'm very happy that you asked about Rey and Kylo, because I think this is just a wonderful topic. So I would not consider myself a Reylo because I don't necessarily think that they should have a romantic relationship. I will say that with what I think is great about the whole Reylo thing is that like I totally understand and quite frankly love that so many people want them to get together like romantically. Like I think that like, I think it's great. I understand why they feel that way. I think that there's plenty of reasons to feel that way. And I think that's great. I also totally understand why people are repelled by that idea. And they're just like, no. Like, that would just be horrible. Like, they're like, and they can, there's plenty of reasons for the other way. So I don't understand, I understand Reylo. I understand anti-Reylo. I don't understand anyone being a jerk about it. Like, let me say. But, I think that, I don't know why people are angry with each other kind of, about it, but I totally see both sides. Like, I definitely think that the characters are very connected. I think that is, I don't think anyone can really argue that. I'm sure people can, actually, because you can argue anything. But I expect in episode 9 that they're going to have a connection. I do expect Kylo Ren to be redeemed in some way. But I do think that it's going to be a redemption pretty similar to Vader, where you decide to make, make a turn to the light, but then you're going to be dead, or you might go into exile. Like, I think it would be really challenging to have him turn and then just continue, with the group. Like, I think that would be very challenging.
Show up for tea.
Hey, guys. Don't mind me.
Well,
I'm good now.
I think about it. When I think about it, I'm like, because Star Wars is all about hope. If I could come up with, like, the second word I would think of redemption. So I really would be surprised if there wasn't some. I really and I don't even think I'd be upset if it wasn't really. It just all depends. I'm very open. Like, I don't have a lot of expectations.
Okay.
I'm just waiting for the movie. If it's a good story, I think that I will, embrace it. And if what the characters do seem to make sense. But, I think that, if they did have like a romance, like, would I accept it? Like, it depends on how it was presented. Like, that's very possible. But part of me really just almost wants them to really try to pull it off and to, like, do it properly, just because, like, I just think that it would be nice for all of the people who want it. And so many of the other people, I've seen much more of the anti-Reylo, like, angry people. And so part of me is like, if one of these sides has to be upset, like, maybe they can be upset. But I will say that, like, I don't think that Rey necessarily should come out of this in a romance with anyone. Like, I just want her to be happy. Like, I want her to be, I want her to, come out and have a positive, conclusion, but I don't necessarily think that has to be a romance.
All right.
Nice.
Well, in that same vein, I guess, backing up more generally, what do you want to see from Star Wars going forward?
I think that they're doing a lot of what I would like to see. I think that I was happy with, like, when they announced, like, the Alphabet Squadron book, like, when they made that a trilogy. I thought that was really smart, because I think that, having, more kind of trilogy books, more kind of comics that go, very long, like, are good, just because I think that, there aren't going to be any more Skywalker movies, it appears. And so, like, where do you go from here? And I think that you need to kind of establish, new characters where you can really, fans can latch onto them. And I hope that they really continue with the connecting of all of the different storylines. I'd love for them to go, thousands of years back. I'd love them to go thousands of years forward. I think that they're just, there's so many different opportunities that I'm excited to see what they do.
Amy, you were just
that was a lot.
Wonderful. It's wonderful to see your excitement and passion.
And it is what happens when I have Diet Coke, like, too late in the evening. I'm like, oh, Star Wars.
Right, yeah.
Oops.
Let's do it.
Whatever works.
Whatever works, man. Wow. Well, Amy, thanks again for just sharing your heart with us and allowing us to chat with you about it. So I think it's time for News of the Week, though.
Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
And now, the Star Wars News of the Week.
dorksideoftheforce.com, possibly my new favorite website name, on January 24th, headlines, Star Wars style, The Force Awakens Finn jacket. Oh man, I so wanted to be like commercially here.
Yeah.
If you're
TVC.
looking to expand your clothing collection, look no further than Finn's jacket. For men. It's for men, though, so I guess us ladies are out. So we're all familiar with The Force Awakens, where you've got Finn meeting Poe, there's a crash, and Finn picks up this jacket that was Poe's, and so now you can have it for your very own. It looks like it'll be available on Amazon.com. And you can find more Star Wars jackets by visiting the Film Jackets Star Wars Jacket Collection, which is a mouthful.
That is a mouthful.
I think I got all the words in there. So whether you're looking to cosplay Finn or simply just show off that fandom, at the bus stop wearing your Star Wars t-shirt underneath, give it a shot and see if people say, hey, I know that jacket.
Finn's jacket? Yeah, jacket.
So I guess the question is, podcast, who's buying a Finn jacket?
Yeah. It's only $159 on Amazon.
Only.
Only.
Well, hey, Valentine's Day is coming up.
Yeah, right.
I would say in Star Wars fandom, that's on the lower price point of...
It's no hot jacket.
Oh, yeah.
It's legit.
That was like,
No,
I don't even know how much that was. Yeah.
That was a lot.
That was like $500. So this is, you get 2 Finn jackets for the price of a hot jacket.
Aaron,
Well,
is there anything else going on?
yes. Star Wars Episode 9 is rumored to feature a de-aged Luke Skywalker.
Oh my gosh.
So,
How do we feel about this?
So gather around, kids. Let's tell you a story. So, for the past year, Luke Skywalker has remained by far the favorite character of the Star Wars Episode 9 rumor mill. But latest rumor is The Express, whoever they are, relays claims that Lucas...
Not the clothing people.
Not the clothing people.
Nope. They claim that Lucasfilm is bringing in an actor to play the role of a younger Luke. So he's going to be like the body actor, and then they're going to have a de-aged Mark Hamill face superimposed on his, kind of like Grand Moff Tarkin. So, it's essentially the idea of replicating Leia and Tarkin in Rogue One, or for you Terminator fans, Schwarzenegger in Genesis Sice. So that's the rumor. Who knows if it's true? But we do know for Force Awakens, they did hire another guy to kind of stand in as a younger Luke during the whole Cloud City Vision thing. So who knows?
Yeah, and that just randomly popped up in Reddit like a couple months ago.
Yeah, so who knows? Maybe he's back at it.
Amy, what do you think about? Yeah, Amy, what do you think about that?
Oh geez, so I've decided to go full spoiler for episode 9 because I'm like, just bring it on. Like I don't care anymore. Like I don't want to have to hide from anything. And so I've kind of sought out some stuff, and like I've heard so many completely, bizarre things. Like I don't know. I like the more Luke the better. Like, pull it off. Like just figure, like I think I'm assuming I have not read this rumor, but I think it would be great to kind of go back in time and see more of what was going on in the Jedi Temple. With Ben Solo, like I certainly hope that some of the new characters are like the Knights of Ren or the other Jedi who were there. Like I would love to kind of have all of that kind of pop up more in episode 9. So if that's what it is, that would be great. But I don't believe anything that I hear now. I think it's all lies.
It's all lies.
It's all lies.
Deceptions.
We need like a Boar gullet to like sort out all the rumors.
I know, but I love reading them at the same time. Right. Like I'm here for any rumor and speculation. Like it's all great.
Yeah, we
Especially
should have
when it makes a whole bunch of people mad. Like I don't know. Like there's something that I'm just like, oh come on, like.
It's like Boar Gullet. Could you tell me if Hayden Christensen is going to be in episode 9? I need to know. Okay, this was hot this week. Speaking about hot, it was Entertainment Weekly posted a photo of things that are coming up in 2019, and this was for the Broadway Burn This play that Adam Driver and Kerry Russell who is also going to be featured in episode 9. It was a picture of them on a couch, and the headline's like, you can imagine them in bed together. So basically, it's Tony Award-winning director Michael Myers, had to say about the cracking first public publicity image of Kerry Russell and Adam Driver for upcoming Broadway play Burn This. You feel the erotic and emotional connection very strong, he adds. Obviously, these two are co-stars, and this play is coming out March 15th, and it'll be opening night will be set for April 16th at New York Hudson Theater. And so Kerry Russell and Adam Driver are going to do this play together on Broadway. And so at first it was like, you know, all the headlines are like, this is episode 9 photo. I'm like, oh boy, what's going on here? But it's just them on the couch. So if you haven't seen it, check out Entertainment Weekly. And it's like, it just kind of thinks like, well, wait, are they together in episode 9? Because you could kind of see it happening, because they're doing this play together in April. Amy, did you see this picture?
So what I love is that before I saw that picture, I saw a Reylo Photoshop and a Reylo illustration. And I literally then had to Google like what the actual photo was. Because it was like the Reylo action was just like hot and heavy. Like it was immediately like, nope, we can just put Daisy Ridley right in there. And I was like, and that's one of the reasons why I have a very soft spot for any kind of Reylo. I was just like, that's amazing. Like that is like so. Like I was great. I love Kerry Russell. I'm very excited that she is in episode 9. I did not know that they were in this play together. I think that sounds like an amazing thing to go see. Yeah, no, like that picture will crack me up every time I see it. Just because I was just like, what is going on? Like
the Reylos were already out like photoshopping it. Nope, that's not Kerry Russell, that's Daisy Ridley.
Yeah. No, I saw like at least 3 photoshops of it. Like, I mean, it was hilarious. I was just like, whoa, like what is going on? Something is going on.
That's awesome.
Oh man. Well, on a totally different side of the world.
Totally different.
We have Oscar nominations. And we need to get really excited because we've got quite a bit of geekiness happening here at the Oscars, which will include Best Original Song. We've got Black Panther.
Wakanda Forever, man. A lot of them.
And then, let's see, with obvious, runnings with the Stars Born movie, because, that's probably going to win, because I hear good things about it. But then we've got Best Original Score. Again, we've got Black Panther. Mary Poppins Returns is thrown in there. Best Animated Feature. Incredibles 2. Isle of Dogs. Mirai. Which I totally just butchered. Ralph Breaks the Internet and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Spider-Man's going to win.
I mean, I think it's going to be Spider-Man, so that's pretty exciting.
Although Ralph Breaks the Internet is also a pretty awesome flick, and Incredibles 2 is also awesome.
And Incredibles 2 was pretty good.
Amy, did you see any of those?
I have not seen Ralph Breaks the Internet yet. I don't know how that didn't happen because both my kids really wanted to see it. So I must just be a bad parent.
Clearly.
I'm just a bad parent. But no, I think that Spider-Verse will and should win. Like it was such a unique movie and just so delightful. Like actually someone who I've been telling to take their kids to it, like finally did, and he was just like, oh my gosh, like you were right. I'm like, I know, I wasn't like trying.
I know.
But I think, it was interesting because like, I think a lot of people were like, do we really need another Spider-Man movie? I'm like, it's not like another Spider-Man movie though. Like it's the whole point.
So
who's your, okay. All right. Wait, I have to, Erin, I got to ask her, who's your favorite Spider-Man?
Oh God. I'm not a huge Spider-Man person. And so like, I don't know if I really have one.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like super like attached to any of them.
Okay.
Although I just saw recently Tom Holland's lip sync battle, and I feel like that might I don't know if anyone saw that, but like it's a thing of beauty, and so everyone.
It's pretty good.
Like,
I'm sure Heather has.
I'm just like I think he might be my favorite.
Well, I said on the podcast last week, Tom Holland's my favorite Peter Parker, but why am I blanking out here? The Sam Raimi one.
Toby. Toby's your
Maguire.
boy.
He's my favorite Spider-Man. And then Tom Holland's my favorite Peter Parker. So just putting it out there.
You can't have them both, Aaron. You can't have them both.
That's what the internet is for, Todd. So
That's right.
Photoshop whatever. Moving on.
Exactly. All right, Heather, what other nominations happened with the Oscars?
So basically, Black Panther, we've got sound mixing, sound editing, production design. I'm pretty confident they're also Best Picture, which is huge for a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
And then with Best Visual Effects, we get Avengers, Infinity War, Christopher Robin, First Man, Ready Player One, and Solo. So we've got a Star Wars nom in there. So
yeah, because again, Disney forgot to put in the one for original soundtrack. They missed the deadline.
Yeah, they turned in their homework late.
I know. I felt bad for whoever. It was like, oh.
Man, it's a good score too. So
it is a shame. Good score. Yeah.
So, but I think we can all say it's going to be a good year.
Just look
Disney
at I was just gonna say, just looking at best visual effects, those are I haven't seen. The only one I haven't seen is First Man, but all those other ones I've seen, and they're all very good. I'm just hoping, Star Wars hasn't won an Oscar in a very long time, so it'd be just be so. I mean, kind of ironic if Solo takes an Oscar home. I think it would be like vindication for the movie that no one wanted, but is now has an Oscar. I think it would be like so awesome.
It'd be really good. Oh, good times.
All right, that wraps it up for our news of the week. Let's head on over to Cantina Chat. Okay, so this is our segment where we talk about what we've been up to, all things geeky. Pass the glass of blue milk, and let's have a little chat. So, Amy, what have you been up to lately?
Well, the main thing I have done, really even just this year, is that I took my 365 Days of Star Wars Women website and I moved it all over to kind of an umbrella site, which I just, named 365 Star Wars. Haha, because I bought the URL last year.
It's mine.
I took it and I grabbed the Instagram, and someone else has the Twitter, but I put a little, spacer thing in it. And so, they're not even active, jerks. But, so basically, I have started to kind of do that site because I wanted to talk about Star Wars, but not just the women, also the men and the creatures and the droids and the planets. And so I've been kind of, slowly setting that up. And then really, I'm just trying to, start wrapping my head around Star Wars Celebration. It's my first one. I made a couple buttons. Someone on the internet who shall remain nameless, Danny, suggested I do trading cards for 365 Days of Star Wars Women. And so I'm working on those because that seemed like a fun idea that people were excited about. So I'm trying to, just working on that, doing Star Warsy things, ignoring the clutter in my house. That's kind of, that was my goal last year. And, I'm continuing that.
Right
on.
Awesome.
Heather, how about you?
Yeah. So, what have I done? So,
what'd you do this last week?
I got it. We're good. So, as Amy, I think you said earlier, we're all still kind of discovering who we are, even when we think we know who we are. And I was recently on the socials, because that's what you do when you're bored, and I came across this guy who did photography of famous scenes of movies, but with Lego characters. And I was like, that's awesome. So I have been totally inspired since I got into the photography a little while ago, and I kept looking for the thing that would really kind of get me back behind the camera without going to the zoo every day and taking pictures of animals, because that's basically my jam. So I have Pinterested a whole new board because that's what you do when you're inspired by something, and found a way to create my own light box so I can set up scenes to make sure I get all the right lighting. So that's my plan for tomorrow. But I wanted to kind of know that I could do it, so I bundled myself up and I braved Hoth outside.
That's what you do.
And thanks to one of my trips to Disneyland to visit my bestie Lindsay. Hey Lindsay. I bought myself a popcorn bucket that's an at. And so he's a good decent size, my friends. And so we got him outside in the snow. I have these trees and bushes right outside my front door. So very much like the filming of Hoth, where they just walked outside.
Right outside the hotel.
And I am laying on the ground in the snow as cars drive by, photoing. So I threw one up on social media. If you want to find me at Hawk Awesome on Twitter, and or Instagram. Otherwise, we'll get a few more out there. You can take a look at it when we blow up the socials this week for the episode. So we'll see what happens.
Well, you know what they say. You've taken your first step into a larger world.
That's right.
So, yeah, I've got my Lego sets all ready to go, of the ones that I own at least. So
Right.
Awesome. Todd, what have you been up to?
Todd.
What's new in your world?
Yeah, I'm a sucker for Christopher Robin, so I watched that again. I just love that movie. I don't know what's going on with me. Well, I'm a dad, and I'm a softie, and I apparently really love. I think I really want Ewan McGregor to do an Obi-Wan movie because I just love him.
Me too.
But anyways, yeah, I know. So watch that again with the family, and they all love it. So we watched that again. Heather was taking pictures out in the snow, and so I was like, I have a Lego AT-AT as well, and I'm going to go take pictures out in the snow. And I did the same thing and froze my butt off and took a couple pictures because that's what we do. So, yeah, I did that. And, kind of getting back into writing. I'd like to write, too. So I'm trying to start writing some stuff and kind of doing that and planning that out. So I'm trying to write about Star Wars stuff. So doing that. So.
I didn't know you like to write.
I kind of do, but the podcast I do that mostly for the podcast. So I like doing that. So.
Well, cool.
Yeah. So Aaron, RPG buddy, what's going on?
Yeah. I've got
nerd out, dude.
I got two things for you.
Okay.
RPG first. We had our first actual real session.
Was this the invite that Heather and I couldn't go to?
Yeah. I goofed on I sent the Zoom link to the wrong chat. So we have a player who has moved away from school, but she still wants to be in on it. So she connects remotely, and we do the session there. But so we had our first real session, and the segment that I thought would take like 30 minutes for them to do ended up taking the whole 2 hours, but it was fun. I'm always learning. But so the story is we've got a bunch of smugglers. They've been hired out to who are the player characters. They've been hired out to this businessman who's holding this like every 10 years business meeting on his big capital ship. And so they're traveling, and our heroes have to protect the ship from an attack that happens. They go out there, and it's like 4 droid ships with tractor beams just like towing this huge asteroid on a collision course with the ship. So they fly out there, they blow them up, and they knock the asteroid off course enough so that it'll miss the ship. So they get on the horn, talk to the ship, and say, "Hey, coast is clear. We're coming back." No answer. They arrive back into the hangar only to find that it's been sabotaged and the magnetic containment field won't close. So it's just entirely devoid of oxygen. Nobody there. And then they receive a distress call saying that the ship has been taken over. The asteroid attack was a diversion. So that's where we left off.
Wow.
And I'm really excited to see what will happen next. But we got like miniatures and dice and the whole thing, the whole shebang. It's awesome. I could quit anytime I want. So
That's right.
And then item number 2.
Sure.
I learned recently that the Darth Vader's chest plate has like this Hebrew writing on it.
It does.
Yeah, I went down the rabbit hole. And let me see if I can pull it up here. But I went down the rabbit hole trying to figure out what exactly it reads, what it means. And I guess like it's a bit jumbled. It's a bit of a jumbled mess, but what people can make out of what it reads is something like, his deeds will not be forgiven until he merits. So it's basically a little prophetic statement about his character arc and eventual redemption. So, somewhere there's like one of those DK visual encyclopedias of Star Wars, and you can get a good look at the chest plate and all the Hebrew writing on there. But
I mean, they did that in A New Hope before they had Arboresh kind of figured out. So they used Hebrew writing, and it kind of tells it right on his chest plate. But I mean, back then you couldn't even stop that and find a good still.
And it's like VHS. So. It's like looks a little squiggles there.
Yeah, some squiggles.
But even like for the internet, I'm pulling up message boards from like 1998, and all they had were like some like bad photos of the chest piece from like a museum display somewhere, and it's like people had to try to decipher that. But and 20 years later, and who knows what people could find out there. So
That's right. That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
That's all I got. Heather, it's about that time. You wanna wrap us up there?
Let me put a bow on it. So, friends, thank you again for listening to another episode of WSTR Galactic Public Access. Check us out on social media, WSTR Media, all lowercase, all one word. And we always want to hear from you. So you can comment, you can tweet, you can rate us on iTunes. You can email us if you've got a lot to say at mailbox@wstrmedia.com. If you're not so good with the words and the writing, you can call us and leave us a voicemail at 630-557-WSTR, 630-557-9787. You leave us a voicemail, we'll take a listen, we'll throw it on an upcoming podcast. Check out our full back catalog of episodes on our website, podcast.wstrmedia.com. And of course, check us out at store.wstrmedia.com to get all of the merch. Cover yourself. Well, almost head to toe.
Almost head to toe.
Throw the hoodie hood up.
Exactly.
We'll get the hat, guys. But for right now, just throw the hoodie up.
We get like Jedi robes.
Yeah,
is that a thing? Teespring. Let us know.
We need bathrobes.
We'll make it work. Oh, Amy, I have so enjoyed having you with us.
Thanks for having me.
So much for coming.
Yes, thank you.
And letting us pepper you with questions. So we got 2 follow-up questions to wrap it up with you. One is, where can the good people find you on the socials?
Me on Twitter. My personal one is at Amy Richau, which is AMYRICHAU. And then the newer one is 365 and then the underline Star Wars. And then 365starwars.com.
Okay.
And any of the old Star Wars women links will redirect, or they should, hopefully, to the new site. So far they have.
Cross your fingers, yeah.
So far, everything's working, guys.
We've had our own website domain trouble, so no worries.
I was going to say,
we get it.
When you say domain, Aaron just automatically twitches. So, yeah.
Oh, man. So you kind of alluded to this with the new website name, but what are you going to be working on either in the immediate future or the
So I'm
Longer
working
future.
on 365 Star Wars. I'm working on several projects right now for the official Star Wars site, which I contribute to every now and then, which I'm very excited about. And then I would really like
Nice.
to, I had created this website, seeclassicfilms.com, which was all about where to go see classic films on the big screen, like throughout the country. And I'm going to try to, I ignored it the entire last year, and it's Star Wars' fault. But, but I can quit anytime.
You can quit at any
just
time.
as long as, whenever they stop making content, then I'll step away, But, so I'd like to, work more on that, because I really do have, I used to work in film preservation, and I have a huge love of classic film. So I'm hoping to work on that too.
Very cool.
Nice.
Very cool. Well, I think that's all the ways to get a hold of us and all the ways to get a hold of Amy. So next week, episode 108, we're going to talk about Star Wars.
Makes sense.
Probably something more specific, but in the general realm, that is Star Wars. So
who knows? Anything can happen.
Oh, man. Well, Amy, we have a very specific way of ending our podcast, so don't be alarmed. Gentlemen, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Absolutely.
All right. So now
This
is
podcasting. Thank you to all the great women of Star Wars.
That's right.